What's up internet, Kevin here. Now, tomorrow is the beginning of E3's floor show, but today is just press conferences galore with 4 different companies, and we just finished the first 2 with Microsoft and EA, and I wanted to take a moment to bring you guys a brief little recap of those 2 shows and their highlights, what I liked about them, what I got excited for, or what just bored me, and just my overall thoughts of the press conferences so far. So to begin with, there was Microsoft's press conference, which, in all honesty, in my opinion, was one of the best one they've done in years. At no point did they dedicate 30 minutes of the show to just watching people flail around in front of Kinects, or take time talking about third-party deals they made for media, or new UI functions on the Xbox One. It was nothing but games after games after games. Now, I wasn't a big fan of how they started things off with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, mainly because that is a multi-platform title and I was hoping to see more exclusive stuff right away, but I will say it was really nice to see a new Call of Duty game that actually looked new and not just a reiteration of what we've seen for the past 5 years. Overall, we saw a lot more trailers and gameplay for a lot of other multi-platform games we've heard about already, including Evolve. We saw Assassin's Creed Unity announce its 4-player co-op mode, Dragon Age Inquisition, The Division, and my personal favorite, actual gameplay for The Witcher 3. But the really big thing I think about this press conference were how many actual exclusive games they also announced and are actually going to get a holiday 2014 release. In particular, Sunset Overdrive looked like a ton of fun, and I really like the gameplay they showed, but I am just a little skeptical about whether or not the game will look like that at launch compared to today's demo. Now, I'm also mildly interested in Fable Legends, despite how I felt about some of the later games in the series, but I'm just a huge sucker for asymmetric games, so the idea of having 4-player co-op with heroes fighting against one, basically a digital dungeon master, sounds really cool to me. I just hope that they really address the combat issues from the earlier games and make it a lot more complex than just press X to win. Now, of course, there is the one gigantic Microsoft exclusive elephant in the room, which is Halo 5, which we didn't really get that much more new info for outside of a couple of trailers, but they did announce the Halo Master Chief Collection, which is coming out this holiday, which contains Halos 1 through 4 for Xbox One, including an HD remake of my personal favorite, Halo 2, including the original multiplayer gameplay. It will also be including a live-action series called Halo Nightfall and a beta for Halo 5, which will be starting in December. Outside of that, we did get a couple other announcements in terms of games. We got a nice little montage of a lot of different indie games, which is not something Microsoft's done in a while, especially one in particular that was really gorgeous called Ori. We also got a couple games announced for 2015, including a sequel to the Tomb Raider reboot, and a new action game from Platinum Games called Scalebound, which features a main character that's clearly not Dante, fighting against and alongside really giant monsters that looks like it could be really interesting, and I'm hoping to see real gameplay for soon. Overall, it was a really solid press conference. There wasn't anything particularly earth-shattering, but it was just nice, consistent announcement after announcement. And easily, in my opinion, it was the best Microsoft press conference in quite a few years. Then there was EA, which, in all honesty, I wasn't really as enthusiastic about. Now, to be fair, I am a bit biased when it comes to EA Sports. I just really don't care that much about those games. I'm not really interested in FIFA, Madden, or PGA Tour, or even the new Criterion games featuring vehicles or UFC. Pretty much the only thing that can knock me out of the slumber is if they announced a new SSX game. Now, there was one particular segment of the show dedicated to BioWare games. We finally got to see some actual gameplay of Dragon Age Inquisition, which at the moment I'm kind of on the fence about. I really loved Dragon Age Origins and didn't care as much for Dragon Age 2, and it looks like the gameplay we saw really shows a very similar action focus like we saw in Dragon Age 2, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It could still be a major improvement. It's just that there's not enough info to work on yet, so it does have me a little more worried. Alongside that, BioWare also announced 2 other projects. We are for sure getting a new Mass Effect game, though there wasn't really any new info outside of a focus on new environments. And then another unnamed IP that is in the works that we really got no information on outside of the fact that it exists. There was also a lot of time spent on Sims 4, which basically just boiled down to a lot of gameplay showing a bro working out and Obama dancing at a house party, which to be honest, I kind of blanked out on. Now, EA also showed some more gameplay for their attempt at a MOBA game, Dawngate, which we really didn't get a whole lot more new info on, just a few behind-the-scenes interviews and seeing just little snippets of gameplay. Now, there were 3 actual big things that happened during the EA press conference that were peppered throughout, basically one at the start, the middle, and the very end. First up was a closer look at Star Wars Battlefront 3. We finally got to see just a little bit of gameplay looking at environments, but still not too much info yet. Second off, we finally got to see some actual gameplay of Mirror's Edge 2, which does look very similar, but we saw a lot more of the in-depth behind-the-scenes work of how they're trying to make the parkour as realistic as possible, and really for me, this was the highlight of the whole press conference. Now, third up and last but not least, we saw a really long gameplay segment that was clearly scripted of Battlefield Hardline, but the really interesting thing is that they also announced that signups and the actual closed beta for it is starting today, which also led to the website having just a few problems as a direct result. Overall, I really didn't care that much for the EA press conference. There were some highlights that I liked, but it just felt really weak and slow, especially considering what we saw at the Microsoft press conference right before. Now, these were just 2 out of the 5 press conferences planned for E3. We've still got Ubisoft and Sony to deal with later today, which I'll be posting a response vid for as well. And tomorrow we'll have Nintendo, which, depending on my schedule, we might be putting up as well. So don't miss that, and make sure you subscribe so you can catch those videos. And if you enjoyed this one, please make sure to hit that thumbs up button as well to let me know. Don't forget, you can also follow me on my personal Twitter at Kevin Kenson, where I've been live tweeting my thoughts on all the different press conferences and announcements coming out of E3. So I'll be seeing you guys later on, but until then, I'm Kevin Kenson, and I'll see you later.